Running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans, welcome to Talking in Ovals. How's everybody doing out there on this Monday, October 14th, 2024, episode 110 of the show? I'm Alex, partner in crime over there, Dave. What is going on?
We have a new world record that might be the most impressive world record that we've ever seen.
Which is sad because all I've seen about it is people questioning it.
I know.
It's terrible, to be quite honest.
I don't like that. I mean, that there's no proof of anything, but 209.56 for a women's marathon is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and considering actually the blistering pace that she was on to start, she was on like 206, 205 pace and slowed down to a 209.
To average sub 5 a mile at Chicago,
my God,
for a male is ridiculous. For a female is unworldly. I mean, congratulations. Absolutely stunning. I'm still trying to wrap my head, and until I hear otherwise, this is a legitimate, amazing world record.
Yeah, it can't be looked at as otherwise. It has to be considered legit until, like you said, until otherwise proven. So we have a great show tonight. I'm excited for it. I'm going to do my little preamble as I always do. Wherever you are watching from, we appreciate it, whether it be X, Facebook, YouTube. Hello to everybody out there. If you're watching on X, give us a repost and a follow. On Facebook, follow us and share it. And if you are on YouTube, smash that like button, leave us a comment, share the show, do all that good stuff, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And also for the podcast people, because, we've been neglecting all of our audio people, Dave. For the podcast people, if you are there, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a comment, rate it 5 stars, because it's very important there that, your ratings count just as much there as they do in the video space. So we appreciate all our audio listeners as well. So before we jump into the fun stuff, we have always, it is sneaking up on us, the River Rock and Run 5K. Our buddy Adam Nalvin, the 3rd annual River Rock and Run 5K, that is on Saturday, November 16th. That's a month away, Dave. It's crazy. Ooh. It's a month away. I feel like I've been promoting this for the last 3 months. But it's a month away. Adam Nalvin, new improved 5K course. You can either double up, hand off a baton in a 5K, which is really cool. Each of you run about 1.5 miles, or you can run it solo. In the end, all the money will go 100% to fulfill Monmouth and Ocean County Food Bank. And you can also go get some great food and some drinks all in time for Thanksgiving. So please go sign up for that. Just go to River Rock and Run 5K on Facebook and you'll be able to sign up. You'll get some cool swag and everything there too. So last week we had a great show. Awesome. We had John Anderson on. If you don't know who John is, you might not like sports, but John Anderson was a retired Sports Center anchor for the last 25 years. Did it 25 years and retired this year. Still the voice of track and field for ESPN, but also the voice of track and field for the Olympics and for New York City and Boston Marathon. So we were pumped to talk to him. It was such a fun show, Dave.
Oh, it was great. What a down-to-earth, humble guy who just loves talking. He's like, I got to talk to you guys for hours. He just loves to talk about this sport. He's just one of us, just a track junkie who just can't get enough and is ready for this next wave of talent to take off.
Yeah, and just his insight, his memory, and things like the people he's met, the people he rubs elbows with. It's like goals, like absolutely goals. Like for what we're looking to be, it's like, hey, we want to rub elbows with those people and have those people on our phone to turn to. But John was awesome. It was lots of fun talking to him, and obviously we'll have John back at some point. I could see him definitely coming back. But this week we have a fun show and we have a unique show because we have a kind of mutual connect to this, and this individual reached out to us and got us one of the coolest guests that we've had because he runs one of the biggest and best races in the country. It is Cliff Bosley. He is the race director for BOLDERBoulder, a giant 10K out in Colorado. What's going on, Cliff?
Hey, hi guys. It's good to be a part of this. I like your intro video. Got me kind of pumped. Maybe I should go for a little run.
Thank you.
We were trying to go. I was trying to find like the best like Olympic theme without being Olympic, but like seeming like running. And I feel like we nailed it. The little montage. But you know what? The thing is, that video is already outdated with all the stuff that's been going on. Like I don't have Jakob in there. I don't have, I don't have so many people in there. I got to put Faith in there. Like
Grant Fisher.
Cole. I got to put Cole in there. Cole Hawker. There's so many people that I have to put, but for now, that's going to be the video. I'm not ready to change that up yet. But look, we're excited to have you on because, like we said, you run a huge race, one of the biggest races in the country and the world. And usually when you get these large races, they're marathons, but yours is unique because it's a 10K.
Yep.
But we are going to get to that later. Because first, what we want to do, and as we do as always with all of our guests, we want to find out a little more about you. So we want to find out, what was your spark? Because you were a runner as well. What was your spark to become a runner?
Yeah, so it's I grew up. My dad got into jogging, I guess, after his dad died of a second heart attack at the age of 60.
Ooh.
And so my dad started jogging, and there's 5 kids in the family, and so by default, I'm the oldest of the 5, but we all started running in community track meets.
Okay.
And that's like, I think maybe around age 9 or so. Wow. And that I'm not sure if that was the spark, but that was the introduction to the sport.
Okay.
And the spark, I think, evolved as kind of the race came out of the ground and kind of growing up around it.
I mean, that's why, like, you have such a unique situation, because like a lot of people were like, oh, I was doing a sport, I was introduced to track in middle school, high school. You've been around it because your dad is the one with Frank Shorter that started BOLDERBoulder, right?
Yeah, right.
So how old were you when that started?
Yeah, first race for me in 1979, I was 12. So 6th grade.
6th grade. So you're like, very untraditional way to be introduced to the sport. But I feel like probably the coolest that we've had on this show yet. It's like, yeah, I got to go run with a bunch of professionals. No big deal. Just, hanging out with them. And I saw there was a cool story because, I looked up a few things about and one of the fun stories I saw is like, you were asked to take a picture of Frank Shorter for one of the races after he won it or something like that.
Uh-huh. Frank was and has always been a hero, right? So growing up in Boulder, he and my dad were friends. When you're 12, it's you're just a little kid. And the first race was really kind of cool. We had a connection. Frank had a running store on the Pearl Street Mall. And so my first running shoes, of the 5 kids, my sister Elizabeth and I were the 2 that got selected for, really true official Nike running shoes. Wow. Prior to that, it was kind of the Kmart tracks.
Right. Oh yeah.
And so, we were feeling kind of pretty special. Yeah. And so, being around an Olympian and seeing him on TV in 1976, my dad's watching the TV and I guess maybe I was 10, kind of tracking with it here and there. And, Frank and my father just had this idea in 1979. The first idea was, let's put on a track meet for kids. And my father was, I don't know. He was a little, with 5 kids and you show up at a track meet on a Saturday, you're out there all day. And the other byproduct of that, I think, was he just saw a little league kind of mentality with some of the parents. Yeah. And he didn't like it. And so his idea with Frank was to put on a track meet for kids. And I think about the second meeting after he asked Frank if Frank would help him put on this track meet, Frank said, this is going to be a lot of work. Why don't you just put on a road race? And so at the time, I was in 5th grade when this conversation was going on. And the next thing I knew, my dad and mom had loaded all 5 kids in the Volkswagen van again. And we started going to road races, and we were racing, and my dad was taking notes in observations and trying to figure out how to put on a road race. And a good weekend, we'd laugh, but a good weekend for us when we were growing up was if we got to race on Saturday and we got to race on Sunday. and which yeah, sort of doesn't seem very smart today, but at the time it was awesome.
So, did you run
That's great.
track, and did your family run track and cross country for your schools, or was it all just like find road races with the family and do it that way type of deal?
Well, it started with road racing,
Mm.
and for a season I was fast until everybody else got into it, and then suddenly I was not. um, and what's also interesting is, oldest to youngest. So at the first race I was 12 and my youngest brother was 6. And we got to kind of watch my younger brothers and sisters. They were way faster than I was. And in fact, my youngest brother, Ted, is one of Boulder's boldest, which is there's 48 people that have run every race since it started.
Oh, wow.
And
That's amazing.
yeah, so he's run 44 of them.
That's
awesome.
incredible.
Whoa,
You'd be able to say you ran that all those races.
So what-
That's really cool.
What was the relationship with your father and Frank? Like how did they
Yeah.
end up becoming
Isn't
friends
that
or
funny?
whatnot?
So my father ran a small, really small independent community bank in town. And it was sort of a joke, at least at the beginning, that it was housed in a mobile home kind of trailer on the side at the north end of town. And the bank's attorney, who was also friends with Frank, told Frank, there's this kind of wild man banker that I'd like to introduce you to up on the north end of town. And I think you guys I think it might be good for you guys to know one another. And so Frank was still running and training and competitive at the time. And my father was kind of crazy and would get to work at 4:30. And I'd hear stories about how Frank was out for an early run and would run by the bank. And I was always jealous, like, well, I'll get up at 4:30 and
Right.
come down to the bank. And
I'm with Frank Shorter, yeah.
Yeah.
right.
Oh yeah.
And so, but that's he got introduced through the bank's attorney, and a non-conventional attorney for sure. Maybe the whole way that we grew up is a little countercultural, but pretty cool.
I mean, like it's so random.
Yeah.
Like, what are the chances that something like that happens?
Right.
Like, it's ridiculous.
Shorter,
Like, that. Like, what a chance connection, and like how different things could have been if the attorney was just like, "Oh, these guys are pretty cool, but whatever. I'm just gonna continue dealing with Frank and going to the bank." Like, no,
Yeah.
like what a like random thing, but it's like such a cool, like tiny little drop in the bucket that led to
Right,
something so
and-
freaking cool.
And I just think they must have made just an instant connection to be able to trust each other enough to go in as partners and create this amazing event.
Yeah, it was great. Frank was still running at the time. He had the running store. He also had a running gear company, and my father was just the whole focus of the bank that he ran was all about small business, and he was just loves small business. And so being able to make loans to small businesses and also work with guys in town to build small business. And Frank and he formed this great, friendship that a lot of things spawned out of that. But the race is one of those really cool things that happened. In fact, the first race in '79, that's sort of crazy, but our promotional poster that actually got hand delivered, and there's even a story behind that, but on the poster it said "Race against Frank Shorter and Rick Rojas." And and so at that time we were in that first running boom, and largely I think the success, you can start a race today and have, I think, success without featuring or having a pro field. But then it was the pro athletes that made the Boulder unique and special. And the fact that Frank ran it and Rick ran it, it did put a spotlight on Boulder and on running. And so we were kind of in the right place, the right time with, I don't know, just everything kind of worked.
So I want to go back down memory lane. What are some of your favorite times from being a runner, from being 12 years old, starting doing 5Ks, and then, getting yourself through middle school and high school and everything? And did you run in college and things like that? I want to know all this. So what were your favorite memories?
Well, the 79 race was pretty cool. And from the standpoint that was the first one to run or race. Yeah, Frank, my dad kind of arranged it that, my sister and I got the preferential treatment, but to go down there, pick out a pair of running shoes, kind of a matching, dolphin singlet with, the shorts and that
awesome.
year was fun. The Boulder was unique in the first year. Our age groups were pretty tight, meaning the age group I ran was 11 to 13. So as a 12-year-old. And so Steve, my father's name is Steve, and he decided that we're going to go 10 places deep. Oh, wow. And so that year I got 10th place. And now I figure out why we go 10 places deep. Aiming to give my kid a medal, right? And my brothers and sisters were all faster than the double-digit placement that I had. But it was wild to get that. At the time I mentioned, 12 years old, I ran 47 minutes and 2 seconds and thought I was special. And
hey, that's still pretty good. 47 as a 12-year-old is not bad at all. Hell yeah.
Yeah, there were still 9 in front of me.
None of them are better, but hey,
yeah. Right. And why did they always get faster and I didn't? But and that was a great race, and all five kids raced that race, and fun. First race was actually the only time it's not run on Memorial Day. We ran on a Sunday afternoon at 3. Which is kind of a cool time to do a race, except in Colorado where you might have an afternoon thunderstorm.
Right. Yeah.
And, but just everything about that race was pretty just cool. There were 2,700 people that registered and
the first year,
2,200 that finished.
Wow.
That race, it's funny. So the posters I was telling you guys about that the Steve and the bank created, so he worked with my Boy Scout troop and said, in exchange for helping us to put a rolled up poster on 25,000 doorsteps, the race will contribute money to the Boy Scout troop to buy tents and camping equipment.
That's pretty cool.
And,
that's cool. That's good.
So leading up to the first race, it was my scout troop and my dad driving, the old school Suburban with the tailgate and scouts hanging off the back end, running to the front doors. So it's pretty organic too, in terms of just our I guess maybe just how it kind of came to be.
That's just really cool. So what other memories do you have?
Awesome.
So you obviously did you continue running? Are you still running to this point in your life?
Yeah, I get a couple of days a week and then I have to ride in between to kind of recover. But yeah, it's still a blast. Once a runner, always a runner, I think now. And for a long time, the running's been about just that runner's high.
Oh yeah.
I did get to, not competitively so, but did get to run through college. And I think the coach was fired up for me to be on the team, even though I was not terrific, but just to, I don't know, everybody'd be done and I'd still be out on the course grinding it out. And that was great for me. My younger brothers and younger sisters were faster comparatively for their ages and faster longer.
Okay.
Meaning their contemporaries didn't catch them as fast as the guys I grew up with.
That's all right. So
yeah, it's still running.
Did you guys always have the same course? Was the University of Colorado always on board, or was that something that kind of came into? And how did you get them on board to be able to finish in their stadium and whatnot?
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, awesome.
First year was finished in North Boulder Park, just west of town, on the west side of town, and it was pretty obvious that that was maybe we outgrew it. There are some funny anecdotes along the way of kind of how some decisions were made, but the very first race, my father had brought in somebody that would to help manage the event and maybe stage it, and not knowing much about putting on road races, this company agreed. And from all the different road races that we attended as kids, my dad had a list of 5 or 6 things that he saw that got screwed up at every road race. And so he gave this company, this small company, the list of these 5 things and said, I see this get screwed up everywhere. And the, after the race, well, in addition to a lot of things not working, those 5 things didn't work. And so we'll remember the dinner time conversation was my father's booming voice. Well, by God, if it's going to get screwed up, we're not going to pay someone to screw it up. We'll screw it up ourselves. And so that probably is why Andy and I get to have a job here at BOLDERBoulder. Is had it worked really well, they might not have decided to
keep it in the family, basically.
Yeah, right. It was kind of cool. So
I want to jump to that because it honestly, like, I can't imagine the logistical nightmare these races have to be, because you're now dealing with tens of thousands of people, a ton of age groups, a ton of disciplines, speeds,
pros too,
like that. Pros, pros, and just like not even your pros, but your elite level athletes that may not be pros, and then people that want to run, your walkers, your you have a lot of disabled people, Paralympians and things like that compete as well. So what have you seen in terms of growth logistically, and how have you guys kind of adjusted and gotten into the well-oiled machine that it is now?
Yeah, Alex. So kind of going back to Dave's prior question that I kind of digressed on, the venue had to change as the event grew. And so the second year's race went to Boulder High School and finished on the Boulder High School track. And then the third year, the University of Colorado, the president of the university and the athletic director both observed that this might be a unique event to host at Folsom Field. And that's the home of the Buffaloes, right? So Steve actually said no the first year that in 81, he's like, no, I don't think we'll fill it. We'll look like we're that's not good. Yep. They did talk him into it that year. And the third race in 81 did finish there. Frank Shorter won it that year. That's awesome. And that's been the home of the finish line since. Each of those years, so the race went from about 2,200 to about 5,000 in year 2.
I saw that.
Yeah, about 8,500, 9,000 in year 3. And so every year, just all the systems were having to be rethought. So to your point, that logistic they were just the team was really hands-on in terms of understanding. Just okay, redo it now, move the finish line, then redo it again, move the finish line. And in our, let's see, I guess maybe our fifth race, and we were still doing a mass start at this time, and the race had grown big enough that the finish line backed up inside the stadium. And so it reached a point where, people were crossing the finish line, then it was backing up to the point where you couldn't get across the finish line. And one of the key marketing guys that helped forge the BOLDERBoulder name and did all the design work for the bank and for the race, was having a conversation with my father about racing enduro motorcycles, and was describing how he was in the fifth wave back revving his motorcycle, and they created all this hype for the first wave, and they sent him off, and then they brought the next group up and they sent him off 2 minutes later. And right then and there, my father's like, that's it. That's what we need to do. And so that's how the wave start was actually born. And at the time, the prevailing thinking was we weren't sure if people would hear a gun and just go. And so Steve worked it out with the beer sponsor to park a beer truck a third of the way down.
Nice.
And thought, well, if we lose control and the waves don't stay together, at least we'll have people trapped behind the beer truck.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So how much did you find the success of when, like the Colorado program itself started to take off and, they got their national championship for the men in 2001 and things like that?
Wetmore came there and
came there in 95. And that really, how much, and even Potts there earlier, right? Because Potts was kind of there at the beginning, I think, when you guys were racing. Potts was probably still there. When you saw that program start to take off, did you find that also helped Boulder get more popular, where you're now getting, like, you're having Goucher, you have Torres, you have Dothan over there,
Slattery's,
and you have Slattery's, like you have all these now national level names.
Alan Culpepper, one of my favorites.
Exactly. And now they're obviously getting the graces to compete, or at least be a part of it, because it ends at Folsom Field. How much did their success over at Colorado help you guys out in terms of race promotion and maybe getting some bigger collegiate athletes that come and either be there or participate in it?
Yeah, really good questions. And you guys are so well researched. Man, you know the backstory. Well,
I try.
Dave's
better at that stuff than me. I'm just getting lucky tonight.
Well, I appreciate what you guys know. So probably what set the stage, at least early on, was Frank coming to town.
Yeah, sure.
And Frank moving here to live and train at altitude. And that story, which you may have heard, is that, he picked the University of Colorado because they had a field house and it was open to the public. And so in the winter, he could get in there and he could run on their roughly 200-meter or 200-yard track, I think.
Yeah.
So that's really what kind of initially put Boulder and high altitude training. And that was wildly attracting some of these long distance, more professional athletes to come to, I guess we didn't call them pros then, but elite,
yes.
World-class athletes, right, to come to Boulder. And through Frank's running store and through the running gear company, he created the Frank Shorter Racing Team, and which was sort of cool. It's one of those things you're like, man, when I get older, I'm going to be on that Frank Shorter Racing Team.
Absolutely.
And,
he better have gifted you a singlet. He better have. Well, did you get a singlet from him?
Yeah, there's
nice.
That
my man Frank.
Yeah, thank Frank, right? And but it did. We were part of that. Maybe some of that excitement that was happening concurrently. University of Colorado, Mark Scruton in 1982 won the race.
Yep.
And so a University of Colorado grad and student at the time. And what we also had was we were really fortunate that there were folks that were connected to the pro athletes, in addition to Frank, that could also help us put together good fields.
Right.
And yep. And
I was going to ask that next. Yep.
Yes, that helped it. And that was part of this. So yes, the university having a high profile or continuing garnering success, and that's endured over decades.
Yeah.
But so it all kind of points back to running in Boulder, and the University of Colorado was a big part of that. Frank was a big part of that. The Boulder happened to be at the right place, and we were certainly situated at the right time. Those things all kind of coalesced. And
was there a point where you realized that, yes, we are getting great athletes, but to get those top-notch athletes, we have to start paying more? At what point did you realize how important that the prize money would be to the success of this race? And you guys raised so much money for so many great causes.
It's incredible.
Wonderful.
It got me thinking a couple of things, your question, Dave, but and you guys are such good students of the sport. Really, the story is Steve. So we're going to have to figure out how to get him on and tell some of these stories, because secondhand, it's okay, but hearing it from the source. That said, and this is another nuance. So Steve ran this small local community independent bank. You guys will laugh. We had 4% market share in Boulder. So
Nice.
talked to 100 people, 4 of them bank with us. Talked to 100 people in town about the Boulder. 96 of them know that the Bank of Boulder put on the Boulder. And so we had a claim as a result of the race. And so the race kind of grew up there. But to come back to your question, and why it's important, at the time, Steve's attorney, the one that introduced Frank, and Olin Castle at TAC were all having conversations about what was going on with amateur athletics. And this wasn't specifically unique to Boulder, but the Boulder story was central to the Bank of Boulder, which is the presenting founding sponsor of the Boulder, right from the beginning. And the long and the short of being able to transition using trust accounts as a way to award prize money and have athletes be able to draw funds out of trust accounts to offset training or medical expenses or travel or whatever was really that continuum for half a dozen years or so, that went from, hey, there's no way athletes can get money, to now we can pay prize money. And Sunday's race of what was it, over 660,000 just before American money at Chicago.
Yeah.
And so, but that unique thing, Dave, in addition to having a pro athlete recruiter, really
helps.
And that helps in Frank Shorter's racing team. And then a lot of the guys that actually raced on the Frank Shorter racing team, when Nike created Athletics West, or I guess it existed, but they started recruiting really heavily. So Herb Lindsay and Stan Mavis, and there were a number of those athletes that were part of the Frank Shorter racing team initially that ended up being a part of the Nike team. And that's just one of those where the sport was just growing.
You just can't compete with the resources you're going to get from Nike as opposed to a pro that's running a small shoe and clothing.
It was.
It's not fair.
And it wildly it continued to spawn interest in the Boulder from other athletes and international athletes that were coming to Boulder to check out what this high altitude training was all about. And the Boulder happened to be on the calendar at a time that in the late spring that made sense for a lot of people to be able to come and race here. And so I wouldn't say it was easy in terms of that recruiting, but there was a lot of motivation. And then, when you guys talk about the resources and how we dedicate it, we see kind of if we talk about priorities, one, it's our community, and then secondarily, it's the sport and at all levels. So with the top of the world-class athletes, the elite athletes, all the way down to our youth programs that kind of engage kids in fitness. And then lastly, honoring those who serve. We run on Memorial Day, and so we get a unique opportunity to honor those who serve, and especially those who have given their life in service to the country. But so those kind of being the elements of, gosh, I didn't mean for it to sound so like corporate or whatever. But
no, I like it. Keep going. It's awesome.
Well, it's
when you get something this big, there's got to be some corporate part of it, right? Like, because you're not running just a small race of a few thousand people anymore. Like, this is an operation, and you guys are doing some really important things. You have your Memorial Day, honor that you do every single year.
This is not a turkey trot. This is a big established.
Exactly. And then also, I want you to talk about, you guys do something with military bases, right? In terms, you put on a really cool thing with those. And I think that ties into the Memorial Day tribute as well.
Yeah, you're right. It does. And those, just those dynamics. Boulder was wildly today. I mean, geez, if you look at the running clubs that exist today, Boulder is kind of an epicenter of running, long distance running.
Yeah,
but then it was, it was, there weren't flag staffs then.
Right.
There weren't,
no.
Brooks
and
Beach,
so
whatever, anything like that didn't exist.
I don't know if Northern Arizona was even a college then.
Possibly not. They might have been, but they're not what they are now.
And it's neat that the commonality there is high altitude running.
Yeah.
Along the way, I think in 2007, we coined a phrase: "Sea levels for sissies." And
I love
Well,
that.
I was going to ask you that because, like, how many people do you feel go there because it's at altitude? So many people want to just test themselves and see if they
Just
can run a race just for the experience. And here's a chance where you can go there, for the whole weekend. I'm sure most people go and make a trip out of it and then run the race and hang out in Colorado. So I'm sure just the fact that you are at elevation is a huge attraction for many, many people.
Yeah, the natural beauty of Boulder is probably
stunning.
Right up against the Flatirons, and that backdrop is and running. Boulder's a running mecca, and so we're in that all kind of, I don't know. It works synergistically, I think, to elevate running and elevate fitness. Endurance sports kind of spawned out of that. And so there's huge triathlon that happens in Boulder, lots of cycling. In fact, prior to the creation of the BOLDERBoulder, the Celestial Seasonings Tea Company here in town had created the Red Zinger Classic in the mid-70s, 4 years before BOLDERBoulder. And so there was a big emphasis on
a big fitness buzz, right?
Endurance, fitness, endurance, and that's kind of maybe a barometer on the community, if that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, and there has to be, I'd imagine, some competition, right? Because like you said, like people like their fitness over in Boulder and Colorado and the altitude and things like that. You guys can't be the only show in town on Memorial Day. So what has that been like that so many people choose your race as opposed to, and people come from all over the world and definitely all over the country.
Oh, yeah.
You also have different countries as well represented. How honored are you guys that, like I said, Memorial Day is a day where people race on Memorial Day. It's a normal thing. It's a day off. It's a common thing that people do. How cool is it for you guys that you are now continuing to grow and having these large numbers and people are choosing to come to BOLDERBoulder?
Yeah, it's very humbling for sure that they pick us and that they want to come here, and their experience here is again, it might just point back to what a beautiful place to run.
Yeah.
And being at altitude and testing your challenge to race or run at altitude, or even, walk. We've got thousands of walkers, and those are folks that just haven't figured out how cool running is yet.
So here's a question for you, because I know there's a lot of races in my area that were around forever, and then with the influx of technology, for whatever reason, they just couldn't keep up. How important is it to keep up with all the nuances of technology that keep you, whether it's things on your shoes to help you, when you start finish, or just there's so many things now. How important is that component to keep people coming back? Because people love what's new.
Yeah, they like what's new. And anytime I think you can provide feedback on just how they've done relative to the rest of the field, that first running boom for us was, for the whole sport, was really about being fast. And that's something, now at BOLDERBoulder, every age is its own category. So 6-year-old boys, 6-year-old girls, all the way up to, I think 90. No, we had a 100-year-old guy.
Wow.
That's amazing.
God bless him, man. 100 years old. Dang, man.
It's
awesome.
I think lots of races have these similarities to these stories. And what's great about that is that can be in Atlanta or in Falmouth or in Davenport, Iowa, or San Francisco, or Spokane, where collectively that community kind of running experience can be really elevated. And for people that might not get to run the marathon majors, the Boulder and some of these other events may be the equivalent of their marathon, right? This is their marathon. And let's do it.
So I want you to talk to me about Connor Mantz, because America was kind of introduced to Connor this year during the Olympic cycle as definitely probably the next great American marathoner, right? Like, he's there, he's ready to take that mantle. But you guys had him first, and he is a 2-time champion of Boulder, electrifying finishes and everything like that.
This year was awesome.
Talk to me about Connor and what he has meant for the current success of the race.
Yeah. When and this might point back to when Dino was racing, and she had 3 wins here out of 7 pro appearances. And
I was looking, she is unreal. She never ages. She's unreal.
No, she doesn't.
She's unreal.
We saw then when Dino was kind of, and she was Coach V Hill was coaching her and putting a real spotlight on road running but the Boulder. And what we saw is that the community really got behind that, not only the running community, but Boulder. And we saw, little girls out there after the race going up to her, like, sign my bib number. And so really introducing younger people to the sport in a way that you can actually put a face on it. Well, and we're really fortunate that we've had some just stellar pro athletes that want to come and that it really is about the sport. The last 2 years have been pretty exciting with Connor having essentially wins, like from, I think this year he actually at the bottom, at the floor of the stadium when they entered, he had 643 feet to go to the finish line, and he was able to win it in the last 600. He raced it to win it, but
it was
wow, talk about people,
crowds going nuts. It was great.
Yeah, it was awesome. And
you sent us that video.
Oh yeah.
I would like to share that so we can watch and we can all experience what that was like. Let me get this on the full screen here. And so let's see exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, you would think you're watching a marathon now with the amount of spectators.
Connor Mantz from the United States.
And hearing is insane.
Yemen Haile Selassie from Eritrea. He's gonna win it.
I love Connor.
This is your returning champion, Connor Mantz from the United States, a 2024 Olympian. Is gonna repeat as the 2024 champion.
What a ridiculous sight as well. Look, I want to go back real quick.
Yeah.
Dave, look at that freaking crowd.
I know. That's unreal.
Crap. So here's the thing. When you guys say that there's 40K over in Folsom Field, people may be like, oh, it holds 40K. Great. No. There are bodies in that. Here's the thing. Anybody that has watched this show, we've talked about all these leagues, their potential success that's popping up. How can we question that running leagues and running cannot have success when you are watching the end of a 10K look like this?
Deion Sanders isn't bringing crowds like that. Deion is not bringing that.
No. Half these people only go to the Deion games. The rest of them stay home and watch it on their awesome TVs.
Well, wow. If you didn't tell me that I wasn't watching a ESPN or NBC telecast of a marathon, I wouldn't know. Like, it was just the atmosphere, the crowd. Wow.
So I think we need to hook up John Anderson with Cliff, and we need to get John to call that race. Who does call your races? Because I was an awesome call hearing just the excitement and emotion.
So Frank Shorter and Alan Culpepper do the play-by-play.
Okay, we're not replacing. Sorry, John.
Alan Culpepper is one of my all-time favorites because he was in college when I was in high school.
Yeah,
he kind of brought the whole Colorado program onto me. Him and Goucher and then Jersey guy Slattery. I love it.
I take that back, John. We love you, but we can't replace Frank and Alan over with you. But as great as maybe we can do like a guest shot where it's the three of them because they do threes, right? But no, I feel like that would just be cool. And here's the thing: I'll tell you right now, John Anderson's such a junkie. If it fits his schedule, he would absolutely be there in a heartbeat. Like I don't know. Last week we had him on. If you listen to him from last week, he just loves running, man. And it's so fun just to have someone who is in that national spotlight that enjoys running the way he does. So we just got done in May with this past version of the Boulder. What is the jumping off point from there that's leading into now? Because I actually saw something cool. You guys also do colder boulder. Tell me about colder boulder.
Yeah, what's that?
Yeah,
I love it. I love the play off the name Boulder, colder boulder. Like that's awesome.
We so that's our and it's smaller. We do this is wild, guys, but we have 13 invitational races and an open race. The invitational races are based upon your finish time at the Boulder. So let's say the three of us all finished at 52 minutes.
Mm-hmm. That's about right.
We would get invited into one of those invite races where only guys that finished in that time frame are running.
Okay.
And so this is the opportunity for the middle of the pack guys or the end of the pack guys to actually potentially find themselves out front.
I love it.
Win and lead and potentially win a race.
That's fun.
So you have to have run the Boulder to qualify for the colder boulder.
Yeah, or last year's colder boulder.
Gotcha.
Okay. So that's pretty damn cool. So
is it the same course?
I actually thought it was going to be a polar bear plunge when I read it. I was like, are they doing a polar bear plunge with the colder boulder? That would be kind of cool too. The polar bear boulder.
Well, you'd laugh, but there is a polar bear that's he's kind of the central theme for the colder boulder.
Yeah.
Great. That's great. How cold does it get for the colder boulder?
Colorado, man.
Because Colorado can get cold.
It can. I'm jinxing it right now, but we've not had cold temperatures since 2013.
That's incredible.
It's been mild.
And there've been some colder boulders. This is pretty wild where it's been warmer
than the boulder.
Yeah, than Boulder.
So back to Dave's question, how much of the 5K course is the 10K course? Because
it's totally different. It's a 5K tour on campus. It finishes. Really cool. It's all housed on the University of Colorado campus. We finished just outside the field house, and we used to finish in the field house where they had the track, and it just got so busy inside. We finish them right outside, roll them in, breakfast burritos and donuts.
I'm
coffee.
Yeah, honestly, breakfast burritos. You got me at breakfast burritos. So you have the special event coming up to honor the Olympians that competed, and this list is incredible. I see the flyer that Andy sent us, and let me just read off these names. Valerie Allman, George Bamish, Elise Cranny, Valerie Constein, Mario Garcia Romo, Kendall Gretsch, Anna Hall, Ollie Hoare, Woody Kincaid, Leonard Career, Morgan McDonald, Yara Nagoose, Helen Obiri, Morgan Pearson, Amelia Perry, Maya Ramsden, Howie Sanborn, Matt Tingley, Mayor Tiori. I always butcher these last names. And Centuria Visa. Like, those are names, man. Like, holy crap.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So what can we expect at that honoring of the Olympians over there?
This is well, when we talked about running and Boulder having Tin Men and On Athletic and Team Boss, and there's there's a lot happening here on the professional side of the sport, and not to the exclusion of other places, but a way for us to just get those athletes together, and folks from the community and the University of Colorado, and that are kind of key to running, and to celebrate and honor that, I guess being an Olympian and being a professional or a high level distance runner and choosing Boulder, Colorado as home.
Can we do like a separate category for like Elise and any of the other women that had kids and still became Olympians? Like, can we like have a separate category for them of just like,
That's amazing.
yeah, you're an Olympian, but also your new mom plus got back in enough shape to be Olympian? Can we like double honor those people, those women? Because that's such a ridiculous feat.
So I just thought of something. Does the fact that like Dathan went to Colorado, does that make you guys have some sort of like relationship with him and like on where like, hey Dathan, like we need some of your guys here, hook us up?
Well, what's been pretty awesome, and this year we got to do it on the women's side, but Sarah Vaughn wanted to put one of our USA teams was the University of Colorado alumni team.
That's awesome.
On the women's side in last year's team competition. And that's a terrific connecting point back to the University of Colorado, and it's a great way to, they're already fans. They've got acclaim for what they've done. We like it, and we joked from time to time. You know what? You guys watch some of our football games when we run the Buffalo.
Definitely.
And we said, wouldn't it be cool if we could figure out how to run the Buffalo when we introduce this CU alumni team?
That's amazing.
Make that Buffalo run the whole 10K.
Yeah.
Make Steve Slattery ride the Buffalo on the whole 10K.
Yeah.
So here's a real question. One of our pals of this show are the Andrews, Robbie and Josette. Have you made Robbie and Josette sign up for next year's race yet?
That's a good idea.
They absolutely, Josette being at on, Robbie's over there. I mean, come on, let's do this. I think that's a match made in heaven, especially with the incredible shape that Josette has been in over the last few years. But yeah, this is such a cool event that I think also like these are the things that need to transcend the running world, right? Because I think you guys are trying to do that, but we need more people to know about Boulder outside of, the running junkies and things like that, because this should be something that should be
and it should be televised.
It should be televised. ESPN should be announcing it. This should be when you have, and it's not even like to toot your own horn, but you have
50,000 people,
50,000 people with hundreds of elites. And so this is a legitimate race. This is,
and then how many are in the crowds too?
And pro athletes aren't coming there to just run and whatever. This is a tune-up for things. They're using these as legitimate things. So it's not like this is like a scoffed at race.
No,
this needs to be something that's kind of a part of our mission where we're getting these pros paid, where we're getting you guys, trying to get you guys more recognition, because it's something that you guys obviously put on a great event. If you put on a crap event, people wouldn't be coming back. Pros would not come back to an event that's not run well, that isn't, catering to them and allowing them to run their best and, doing those types of things. So have you guys reached out to more individuals to try and get this more press outside of the running world? Because, man, it belongs to be known, and it should be a race of 100,000, not, we should be watching this type caliber race with the marathons. Like, it shouldn't just be Boston and New York. There should be these types of events that are having tens of thousands of people. Big. What have been your efforts to outreach and potentially get us there?
That is, man, I love how you guys are thinking. And
we're good at thinking. We just don't have the money to execute anything we want to do.
Correct.
Well, I could use this podcast as kind of an entree with some of these folks to help maybe tell the story. You're exactly right. We've got the uniqueness of the day, and you guys saw it, that we run the pro wheelchair athletes first, and then we have 95 different start groups that run next. Everybody's in the stadium when the pro men and women finish. So we've got a format with the team challenge, and we've got a venue that I think really helps to tell a story.
Sure.
And you're right. Probably I've been a little derelict in that. Post-COVID, it took us a couple of races to kind of get things back running.
Makes sense.
So I think maybe that's on me.
No, we're not. No, I'm not going to make you take blame. So here's another question, and here's a fun fact that people don't know that I sure as hell didn't know. Dave, you're a running historian, so you may have known this, but I did not know that Boulder was the start of Waves. in running events. That there people weren't doing
Yes.
waves
Nope.
until
Yep.
Boulder. And now that's kind of just something that's normal. That every
Go to any indoor track meet, it's waves.
any
It's what-
indoor track meet, it's waves, or any large road race, they split it up into waves. And most marathons, like at this point, most marathons and halves, they have hundreds of people, so they do waves. Why did you guys start waves? Whose idea was it to get that going?
Yeah, that's great. So Steve came up with that idea. Following
Did Frank think it was crazy?
Well, yeah, it was following the 83 race when the finish line kept backing up,
Right.
and he was like, "Gosh, that's gonna cap this event. We can't get any bigger than this." But it wasn't so much about getting bigger; it was the fact that we had people that couldn't finish and they weren't
right.
getting a good experience. And he's like, "This has got to get solved." And the motorcycle in race with Jim Adler and Steve and talking about that kind of kicked it off, but that's where the whole idea came from. And he got to I don't know, he got to kind of forge it. We've perfected it. Last year we had 95 groups, and it took us about 2 hours and 40 minutes to kind of launch every group, every wave.
But everyone had a great experience, so that's what matters.
And it works awesome, because now instead of that bell-shaped curve that you have when you have just a mass start, where 80% arrive in a 25-minute window, well, it's gonna get crowded on the course.
Yeah.
And so now you can kind of spread that out, and that was Steve's innovation early on, and it just continues to endure and it gets fine-tuned. It's cool because my father is still he crafts every year's wave launch, and
Awesome.
That's great.
Figures out what it should be for next year. So he's already working on the 25 Boulder wave launch.
You know, the thing is, it's like, it feels fair, because also when you get split up into those waves, it could be discouraging if you're kind of that second level and then the elites go and you just see their butts just getting further and further and further. When it's like, okay, the elites go, they do their thing, no one gets in their way. And then now the next level, and you can kind of go with more of your skill level. And now you're sitting there and it's like, okay, I can run a PB today because all of these people around me are generally trying to do the same thing as me. So instead of getting discouraged by people running away from me, now I'm with a pack of people that are going to run somewhere near my time. So it's pretty ingenious for what our sport is, where we're just competing with ourselves the whole time.
You're right with and the way we crafted is the first 39 out of the 95 waves require a proof of qualifying time.
Okay.
Sometime in the last 12 months. So since last year's Boulder, you can use, and we have official qualifier races. And the whole emphasis is just, hey, you get to run in a group of people that's running the pace you're going to run.
Yeah. That's freaking cool too, to get to the point of a race where you have qualifiers, right? Well, I feel like that's got to be like a goal of a race, to get to a point like where there are races that you consider qualifying in good enough quality in order to be entered into a race. Like, and again, that just goes to show that you're not running a willy-nilly type of event. You're running a legitimate event. So, Dave, you had a question?
No, I was just agreeing with what you were saying.
So, one of the things that I want to know now is, what's some inside baseball ready for next year? Do we have any pros lined up already coming? How can we promote this race next year already? Who do we have, if anyone yet, lined up that's guaranteed to be at the race?
Not yet, but
okay.
Having Connor have a really good success here really does show to the rest of the world, you can come here and race. And be competitive. And
hey, Jakob, you hear that? Jakob.
Maybe there'll be a three-peat. There'll be a three-peat.
Yeah, Jakob, come see if you could beat Mance. Josh, I think Jakob just said you can't run a 10K.
No,
Josh,
I heard Grant Fisher wants some smoke too. So.
Grant Fisher said Jakob Ingebrigtsen said soft. I heard it. And they want to settle it at Boulder. That's what I heard.
Yeah, we'll make that work. But what's unique, and you were asking about Connor and man, that guy's figured out. He and Clayton have kind of figured out how to get inside the hearts of the running fan base, and I think that's that's huge. His and you guys know him. It's hard for him not to be a favorite, right?
Yeah.
Either of those guys. And that's going to grow the sport. Ed Eyestone's their coach.
Yep.
And so Ed raced here in 1988 and 89.
That's so cool. What a full circle. That's awesome.
And so
gotta get Rooks then. Gotta get Rooks.
Gotta get Rooks. Yes.
It's one of those things where, and our pro athlete coordinator is a guy named Don Janicki, and Don and Edward contemporaries. They kind of a couple of years apart, and so it's I guess, wow, what a fun place to be in a sport where and seeing those two guys win in Florida and on February 2nd, 1st.
Yeah.
That was
trials, yep.
Yeah, that when we actually, before that race, we were looking at it, and it's funny. So the three Americans representing for the marathon, Leonard Carrier's a 2022 champ, Connor's 23 and 24 champ, and Clayton ran 7th and 11th. In both those years. In fact, gosh, I had it here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it.
So here's the thing. What I just heard, if anyone wants to have success at the Olympic trials,
go to Boulder.
You need to run at Boulder in order to make sure that you're punching your ticket.
It's a 10K. It fits in very well with the pro schedule in terms, however they want to use it as a tune-up or as a race. It's in a good spot. May, early season.
And the thing about Connor and Clayton, and you said how they, endear to a lot of, the runners, and they've tapped in. I think runners, especially distance runners, we like watching those that it comes natural to, right? Like we like watching those, but we like nothing more than the ones that it just looks like they're working their asses off the whole time. And nobody signifies that more than Connor Mance. Connor Mance looks like he's hurting from the first step to the last. And it's something that is just like, it's just grit. Distance runners love grit. And don't get me wrong, Connor Mance has more talent in his pinky than like most people that you'll see. But it's just when we see like grit, it definitely is something that like grasps with the running community. Like the distance runners love to see something like that. So I want to get into the last topic real quick. You've given us an hour of your time, and I've loved every moment of it. The sport right now, you guys are, in a spot where you are an established race at a time where me and Dave have been saying that the sport is about to burst. It seems like it's about to burst. Like we are in a good spot. The popularity's here. There's a bunch of different leagues popping up left and right now. What do you feel the state of the sport is, the health of the sport is right now?
I think you guys are right. I think the buzz going into the Olympics and certainly just around the sport, what happened 2 days ago, world record. Oh my word.
Yeah, seriously.
That's, we're poised everywhere. In terms of running is really, I think, at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And it's ready for its next running boom.
So question I have is, I've always, in my mind, considered road racing and track as almost two completely different sports. Do you sense that, or do you feel that there is more of a connection? Because I feel like a lot of your road racers just go on the roads, which is why you might not get some of your high-level guys, your 10K guys who run on the actual track, because they do on the track. Have you noticed that there's been that separation, or do you feel that we're kind of coming together as you're just a distance runner?
I think it does. It comes together, but I think it comes together slightly later. And I think while they're relevant on the track, race on the track, but there is life after the track. And I think the roads is where that a lot of these track athletes, Alan Culpepper is a really good example of a guy that was awesome on the track, and then his career on the roads and just prominently was, and it's kind of profound, right? But so a uniquely track athlete through college, but a marathoner by the time it's all said and done at the end of his career, and an Olympian. That I think I think those work really well. And
I do
while you're
too.
fast and on the track, race the track, and then know that there is a progression to road running.
I think
Yeah.
you're right, because every year you hear, well, this is this person's last year on the track that they're going the road. So you get those athletes who are not out of their prime. They just have a different prime, because as you're older, as a distance runner, you can still run just as fast. But I feel like it only makes sense for that transition to come from the track to the roads.
And some of those guys end up being really good.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
they end up being almost better than they were on the track sometimes. Like they're like good on the track, but a 10K is not long enough for them. Like they need that longer race than what you can get on a track sometimes.
Honestly, a lot of them are smart, because like there's way more money in road racing than there is on the actual track. So a lot of them leave the track early. So like I can make 10 times the amount of money I'm making if I go on the road circuit than I am
once they get past their first 2 or 3 IT band strains, because that's like what the IT band strains start to happen once you pound the pavement all the time.
They're all going to stay for at least one Olympic cycle, and then listen. Sometimes money talks. So, but it's great. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But I always thought of them as two different sports, and I love your answer. How yes, they do come together. Sometimes it just takes longer.
So we and great. We want, be fast, be on the track, and then know that there is there's a career that still is there. And this is a great opportunity too, to showcase some of these folks that, are great and, might be next year's Chicago Marathon winner.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. So you've been around the sport now for a long time. You've been running this race for a while, been a part of this race. So you've obviously seen all the advancements as they have come, whether it's been technology with the Garmin watches and the, checking your O2, or the different, singlets and things that they're wearing. Everyone going from wearing like the short shorts to now basically a lot of people wear half tights when they compete. Yeah. The advancements in shoes and all those things. How have you felt, and obviously social media, Strava, things like that, how have you felt that all the advancements have done for the sport? Have they done a lot of positive? Do you see a lot of negative with it? Is there a mix of both? How do you see it as someone who has been a director of one of the major races around the country for years?
I think the technology allows for the access to more information, and whether it's performance information or socially, how to connect with your friends and family, or how to, those tracking apps that are out there are great. And what a unique way for someone that's aware that you're running a race in Boulder, Colorado, and now you can connect with it through a device and follow them. And so we love it. We think we think it's important. It's certainly it's certainly becoming more and more popular as the sport continues to grow, and that might actually be what's connecting people that might otherwise not be connected to the sport. Sure. It might give them an opportunity to be a part of it, and maybe even as a walker to begin with, and then a jogger, and then potentially as a runner, and pulling people on that continuum if they want to be pulled.
A lot of it has been made about the super shoes over the last 2 years.
Right.
Have you seen a major difference in terms of the overall times or the average times at your race since the super shoes have really started to become ubiquitous, or has it not really affected the road racing 10K as much as maybe it has on the track?
I think it does have an effect. I'm trying to think of maybe how to qualify that or quantify it, but right. From the standpoint of
no one knows yet.
Our course records at BOLDERBoulder were set in 1995. Josephat Machuca ran 27:52, and Dalila Asiago ran 32:13.
Wow!
And so they still stand. We at the time when they set the record, we had a deal that if you set a course record, we'd pay a $10,000 bonus and $1,000 a second for breaking the bonus or the time.
Grant Fisher, listen. Grant, listen.
Right. So we've when those super shoes came out, we're like, uh-oh, man, our records are going to fall. We're going to be writing some checks. And so we backed off a little bit, but it's still, not to take it away, there's probably an incentive out there to say, let's recruit a field that could potentially break the course record or set a new course record for the men and the women here. And I think the super shoes probably are going to be a part of that. We got those records were set on a really wild day in Colorado. Just probably it will never happen again, that unusual. And because we run the pros a little later, 11:15 for the women and 11:26 for the men, the chance for a little warmer day makes that a little harder to do.
Yeah.
But we get a season like we had in 95 where it was raining.
Yeah.
It rained all morning and then the rain stopped, but the clouds kind of held the oxygen in the more oxygen in the air.
Right.
That was surreal.
So it was almost like running at low altitude at high altitude.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So what are we looking at in terms of a prize pot next year? And what was the prize pot this year? Because obviously that's a number that the pros want to hear. And, it's something that obviously the bigger races, that's how you attract the best talent, right? So what was the prize pot from this year, and what are you guys looking at potentially making it next year?
So aggregate prize money, all things paid out, was just under 108,000. The
awesome.
And we, on top of that too, as we're bringing athletes into town, we're paying to get them to town and putting them up, and so prize money continues to be, and it seems like that's a trend. So I don't know. Anecdotally, I guess I just read more and more that there are races that weren't paying prize money that are now, and I think that that's going to bode well for athletes, because there's a ton of road races out there, and as you said, Dave, maybe there's money in road racing, and
there's definitely more money in road racing. Yeah.
So have you found what has been the interest with corporate sponsors, right? Because obviously $100,000+ in prize pots, amazing. But, they're looking at potentially Diamond League and things like that if they are still good on the track, and you're looking at becoming a millionaire, right? If you compete in the Diamond League, you win that, like you're making, and not to say you guys aren't giving real money. You're giving definitely real money.
Oh, great money.
But have you guys been approached, or have you guys approached possibly getting some of these major corporate sponsors to potentially give a larger pot to try and get something there?
That is definitely an opportunity that we have in front of us, and it's one that I think just kind of given the 22, 23, and 24 races are kind of our progression out of the pandemic, does set the stage for us to be able to identify potential corporate sponsors that would really benefit by aligning themselves with this sport.
Yeah. Yes.
And so you're exactly right. There is opportunity there, and that's one that we would love it we love putting bonuses out there on top of things, and making sure athletes walk away and are really excited about their experience here, and then not only the hospitality of being in town and that kind of stuff, and the fanfare of running into the stadium, but also when you leave that, all right, that was a pretty good day, money-wise for me.
Absolutely. That's something the pros want to get paid, right? That's just that's what they do. It's their job. It's their career.
It's what anybody does in any job,
Exactly. All right. So we appreciate all your time. You've been freaking awesome. I love hearing about this race and the experience. And one of these days, Dave and I do have to get out there for a Boulder, not to run it. I sure as hell ain't running it, but I will watch it. I will be in the stands at Folsom, and I will be yelling for Connor Mantz when him and Grant Fisher are sprinting at the end, and Jakob is over there trying to race him as well. That's what I'm envisioning. Okay. But with that question that we ask try to get to all of our guests, unless we forget at the end of the show, is our overall goal in this show is to make sure that individuals like the pro athletes that are doing amazing things, people like yourself, a race director of such a major freaking race, you guys should all be sitting pretty. You guys should all be living on Easy Street. And this should be a job where it's incredibly lucrative for all of you because you guys do a great job. And like I said, you guys are the professionals of the sport that do the great things for us.
Yep.
So being around the sport as long as you have, if you could wave a magic wand and change something that you could see that would get more of the casual fans to attend, to come to our events, our track meets, our road races, and things like that, that will sit there and guarantee that every single event is a potential $1 million event or things like that, that we can offer the money to pros that other pro sports do. What would you change to make that happen?
That's great. In fact, that's where our international team challenge came from.
Okay.
A number of years ago, but because fans might have a hard time seeing an athlete one year and then they're gone the next, and being able to put them in a team uniform by country. America has this affinity to sports and teams, right? And so now I can root for Team USA or Team Kenya or Team Ethiopia or Eritrea or whatever. And so we see that continuing to be able to, well, now I can cheer for Team USA, but I might not know who Connor Mance is. And that engagement or that I suppose makes it a little easier to want to pay attention. We used to, a number of years ago, we had a television partner that did block-to-block coverage of both pro races. We ran them separately, and it was awesome.
That's
and,
great.
They whatever things changed, and they didn't think that was as important maybe for their viewers. And so it gave us the opportunity to structure the day where the boulder is finishing with the walkers and 5 minutes on the heels of the last walker coming in. The first women are coming in, and then 6 or 7 minutes later, the first men are coming in. We do play-by-play coverage on the video boards. And so Frank and Alan are doing a play-by-play with video from the course. And so the casual fans can engage with it if they want to, but that last 8, 10, 12 minutes of pro runners coming in, that's where we're probably going to, that if we get these athletes to want to come back and race and they develop a rapport in our community, that's going to grow running in our community. It'll grow at other places too, certainly. So I'm not sure if I'm answering it directly, but I think
you are that basically getting runners to come back to events and to have this kind of team aspect. So
continuity,
that 8-year-old that saw Connor Mance run the last 2 years when he was 6 and 8 has a chance as a 9-year-old to see that Connor Mance is going to come back and will be his favorite runner and things like that. And that is something I think is great to sit there. And I'm a Jets fan. I know the Jets are going to play 8 times a year at Meadowlands. Like that is, I know that I have an opportunity to see them 8 times a year there, maybe 9 if the Giants play them, right? So that's something that we don't have as runners, right? Like the NY Grand Prix, the LA Grand Prix, Boulder, you're not guaranteed to get those same exact athletes. So I see where you're coming. I think that's a good idea where we could try and maybe get some.
I also like how he said maybe have more national competitions.
Yeah.
Right. Because people love to root for their country. You know, like people in America, like if they're watching the Olympics, they don't even know who it is, but they see USA.
Their heritage is there.
They are invested because, like, I remember watching, I think it was kayaking, and I was like, hey, go. You know, the guy, I had no idea who he was, knew nothing about the sport, but I was invested because he's a fellow countryman.
But even me, like if I'm watching the Olympics or another event, my heritage is Ecuadorian and Italian. If America's not there, I'll root for the Ecuadorian or Italian person that I see, just because it's a shared heritage. In America, we have that unique spot where almost everyone here has a country of heritage that their family came from for the most part. So I feel like those are also really cool things. Now, 2 things I have a question. Do you guys stream the event on anywhere? Do you guys stream it on YouTube, Twitch, X, Facebook, anywhere like that?
Yeah, YouTube gets covered. And mostly the pro, I mean, we take whatever's going on in the stadium that morning and it's pushed out, and that's a lot of finish line camera stuff. But for the pro athletes and for our Memorial Day tribute, that gets pushed out. And then it's also, we do have some live television with the ABC affiliate in Denver that covers they cover the end of the pro race and then block to block coverage of our Memorial Day tribute.
I think we have to work on, and one thing I've said that we should do, and running people and running in general, we should get drones on cameras that follow these races. And I feel like that is something, and you guys have probably explored it with how many you have. If you can get a few drones that can maybe follow here, follow there, because for me, that's the next level, right? We have the big bikers for the marathons or the car that goes in front of the marathons for the leaders, but drones would sit there and you'd be able to watch most of the race and be at this point. And I feel like that's the next step. And we've talked about a few times just how like the cross country championships in college is massive at this point. It would be so fun to have a drone watching in the backwoods as they're throwing elbows that we are not able to see. I want to see the elbows, but I think those are all cool things that would benefit. But overall, I love what you're doing over there at Boulder.
Amazing.
It is so cool. And I really love the opportunity that we just had. And I want to thank Andy Martin for hooking this up, because this has been a great time, Cliff.
Thank you, Andy,
so much for coming on.
You guys are great. We appreciate you a lot.
So once again, he is Cliff Bosley. He's the race director at Boulder. And I think if you've heard, this is much more than a race for Cliff. This is a legacy. This is something that has been, basically his family's life work, and a source of pride and something that's growing. And I can see just how much it means to you and how prideful you are when you talk about all the accomplishments and the great things that have happened there. So
does your father just ever take a step back and be like, wow?
No, he's working on the waves every year. He doesn't take a single step back. He's working on the waves.
And you might have said that your siblings were faster, but you got to be race director. So
that worked out really well. And this is a labor of love for sure. We are radically passionate. And when you say there's pride, pride in maybe hopefully not a boastful way, but in we're changing people's lives. We're impacting people. Let's keep doing it.
Get that chip on your shoulder, because you know what? You guys, from what I saw, you're looking in line to be the third biggest race in the country next year if everything adds up.
Yeah.
And that's sitting there, and that's considering the Boston and the freaking New York Marathon included in that thing. And if the fanfare that both of those get, being the
non-marathon,
you were the 6th this year, which is incredible, because Chicago Marathon exists and everything like that. Like, you're going up against these events that people are looking at as the cream of the crop, and you're one of those cream of the crop events. So
it's beautiful.
Really love having you on. If you want to go support, go find them on Facebook at BB10K, or you could just search Boulder, and it's spelled Boulder like being bold, and then Boulder, the place in Colorado, for those that are listening,
or the large stone.
And on Instagram, you can go follow them at Boulder. So Cliff, we appreciate it. We're looking forward to, following this event, covering it more. And, Andy, if you're listening, your time's coming up soon. You're coming on soon, darn it. We need to have you on here, not only talk about Boulder, but all your great New Jersey stuff. But once again, we're talking in ovals. We appreciate everybody that was out there watching on X, on Facebook, on YouTube. You guys know what to do on all of them. Like, share, follow, all that good stuff. Give us a rating if you're listening on podcasting. And if the rating isn't 5 stars, just forget about doing it. Anyway, outside of that, we appreciate you all. We'll be back next week with another fun show.